On today's episode of Serious Dangler.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. No introduction here. We got more people even joining the queue. I should have scheduled out people actually coming through. But, hey, we're here for it. We're going to see how many people we can join in the stream here, how many we can fit. We got Charles Blood, a fan of the show. What's going on, dude?
Hey, man.
What's up?
What's up, man?
Man, I
Welcome
want
to the Serious Dangler.
I'm trying to get this on my laptop.
For folks tuning in, obviously we have quite the cluster going on right now, but we're here for it for the big 200. Thank you to everybody who's going to be tuning in here and who was already tuning in. Obviously, it's a huge milestone for the show. And obviously we have Andy, as always, joining me here, co-host, and Rich from Hellabass, who obviously has his own show. He's doing you're going live, what, in 30 minutes, Rich?
An hour.
An hour?
Oh, yeah.
Rich is having his own show tonight. Rich has been on the show quite a few times. And this ugly dude down the furthest right, Mr. Forrest Buckin, which I got to make a quick shout out to Forrest, who got us this little nifty sign here for the show. A little Serious Dangler sign. But, we got Seth.
Oh, man.
The show's over now. We got Mr. Steve Mooey in here.
Lord.
But and if you guys have seen in history, some past episodes, we've had Mr. Andrew Hayes joining us again, and we have a new face to the show here, Mr. Charles Blood, who expressed interest in coming on the live tonight. Charles, what's going on, dude?
Make him tell his story in front of all of us.
Tell him what?
Have him tell his story in front of all of us.
All right, that's fine. Charles, tell us a little about yourself, dude.
Live in Northwest Oklahoma, fishing somewhat local derbs right now, hoping to maybe hit some bass opens and MLF opens the coming year. Planning this year, but kind of COVID kind of slowed us down, you know. So, right now just kind of working, building up the savings to be able to go and do it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, dude. We got two Southern boys. Well, technically three if you want to count Steve as Southern, but we got two Southern boys in the stream here.
Northern transplant.
What's up, Steve? Steve, are you alive?
I'm eating a steak.
Oh, good grief!
I had you muted.
Yeah,
You can just go eat.
You do every show, Steve. You always have us muted.
Well, I said, Andy, I'm eating. He's like, just eat your steak on the camera. I'm like, all right, fine.
Good grief! It's quite the party. Oh, we got Destin joining in. We got quite a party going on.
Hey, man, how are you?
I got my toilet paper here just in case we have another COVID thing.
Perfect.
Oh,
What?
Dude, so
Where did that come from?
you guys got to see. This is so obviously we're about to move into a new house. We packed everything. And everything's just the buyer back out on us. So all of our stuff's been packed for like a month. So like there's just random crap literally everywhere.
good Lord.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
Good grief. Stocked up on TP. Gotta love it. Quick shout out. We got Ryan Killen in the chat here. Ryan saved my day today. So the lake I was at, Ryan lives near it. And unbeknownst to me, I was even checking the radar, being responsible, and didn't see that there was this massive front with 30, 40-mile-an-hour winds moving through. And I was 5 miles from the launch. So basically, I was pinned to the shoreline on some private property. No one was home. I tried. I knocked on the door, but basically, I could not get back to the launch. And Ryan came and saved my day, scooped me, brought me back to my car, and yeah. So huge shout out to Ryan. Thankfully, I'm here, alive.
If I just saw you were a kayak angler and didn't answer the door.
Yeah.
I don't know. All I'm hearing is Bailey's got chicken legs and couldn't pedal hard enough.
Yep.
It was blowing pretty hard. I'm not gonna lie. I was down the 90, and the whole car was moving. And then, like 20 minutes later, I get in the Rochester and I get a phone call like, "I'm stranded." I'm like, "And what can I do to help?"
It's a bunch of excuses. You got to send it.
Yeah.
Wait, your guys' kayaks pedal?
Yeah. Andrew, don't you have like the
Fancy
two?
kayaks.
Yeah. Even the Hobie.
Saw
couldn't
Bailey
get back to
white
that
days, man.
These damn
Yeah.
yuppies.
Well, I think to start us off here, we should. I know we wanted to mention, or not mention, but talk about different random stories. And I think going off of that, that was probably the craziest day I've ever had on the water in a kayak. Probably the most scared I've ever been, conditions wise. It was the only time I've ever needed help before, where I haven't been able to get back on my own. And I know, Destin, you're hanging around here for a little bit, so we're gonna start with you. Like scariest conditions you've ever been in, whether boat, kayak, whatever.
So you guys, most of you know Jeff Hippert a little bit, so you kind of know Jeff's personality somewhat. He doesn't really get too fired up about things like being serious, as you know. So when Jeff called me, we were out on the water practicing for a tournament at Erie, when he called me and said, "Dude, you got to get back here right now. Like, you're going to die." He's like, "No, check that. Beach your boat. I will get your trailer and come find you." And I was like, "Dude, it's not even bad." So literally, the wind had been coming from one direction on this island, and it switched to the complete opposite direction. So basically, where we had to go to get back to the boat ramp, it had become a washing machine right at that point, like this. So he went through that chop, almost sunk his boat going back. And needless to say, he was pretty freaked out. And I mean, I couldn't even tell because on the side I was at, completely calm, fine. I was like, "Dude, it's not bad." So I started working my way back, and I was like, "Oh, maybe it is getting a little bit worse here." So I went about halfway through this, almost got like obliterated by these waves and stuff in the washing machine. So I turned around, called Jeff. He asked some people on this beach if he could back my trailer through their like yard, come back on the beach, and then we got it out of the beach and had to get like pulled out up this hill in somebody else's truck because it was so steep and there was like no traction.
Oh my
So
god,
yes, that was probably one of the craziest moments I've had out there.
that sounds like it. Steve, what are you grinning about?
Probably that.
It's Mrs. Steve.
I'm almost done eating.
We'll let Steve finish eating, I guess.
That's my
Oh,
last
boy.
bite.
We got Mrs. Demarion in the chat right now. Round up with Jeff and cookies.
Side note to that too, ice cream.
Mm.
Like Jeff
Oh
is
yes,
always riled up for some
Yeah.
ice.
Jeff has a sweet tooth for sure.
Charles, what about you, man? What's the scariest conditions you've seen while you've been on the water?
For me, it's probably going to be, well, I was about, I don't know, like 12. One of my dad's friends left his pontoon with us for the weekend. We decided we were going to troll for some walleye. After about 2 hours of being out there, a big storm front rolled in. We ended up with about 8-foot rollers on an 18-foot pontoon. So between nose diving and the motor cutting out right in the middle of the lake and ended up almost just flipping over, I'm going to say that's going to have to be it for me.
Yeah, I still cut it.
So, yeah, moral of that story is don't take out your friend's boat unless you know it works right.
We've all learned that the hard way, Charles.
Rich,
I need
what
to add
about
a
you,
point
dude?
to the Jeff story, not to interrupt, but probably the most interesting point is when we got the trailer up and we were driving on the road. There was two guys in full like Bass Pro Shops rain gear walking down the street, and I thought it was a little odd, so we stopped and put the window down. We're talking to them, and we saw a Coast Guard helicopter not too long before that. And they're like, "Oh yeah, the Coast Guard had to fly out and save us. Our boat got sunk out there in the middle of the lake, and we got stuck out there." I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Good grief.
They weren't even like that shook up too. They were just like calmly walking down the street in full rain gear.
Oh, so going off of the topic of Coast Guard helicopter, we have another guy join us here in the stream, Mr. John King. What's going on, dude?
Whoops.
The helicopter story kind of reminded me of what we were chatting about the other day. If you want to kick us off a little bit about yourself first, but also tell us your story that happened to you recently.
Well, I just bought a brand new Vexus, and was the water was about 8 feet up, so I had to back in myself and took my cell phone and just jammed it in the cup holder and forgot about it for about an hour, and then went to check my messages and saw I had 3 missed calls from a local number, and then checked my recent calls, and I called 911 3 times in a row, and didn't know about it, and so tried to call the number to fix things, because obviously I wasn't in a rush. Couldn't get a hold of anyone. Then an hour down the lake, I see a helicopter low buzzing around where I'm driving over. So they were obviously out looking for me. So, all right.
Yikes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I felt bad about it, and I did my best, but I assume that stuff happens all the time, where 911 gets called all the time by accident. So
kids grabbing the phone, prank call,
Yeah.
making phone call. Yeah. Yeah, and real quick, for those who may not know, John made this masterpiece behind me here, this little smallmouth.
yeah.
We featured on the show recently.
Yeah, so I appreciate you guys posting that. I tell you what, I usually listen, so I never watch. So Andrew, Bailey, you guys are when you're used to looking at Jared Swindle and Matt Painrack shirtless all the time, you guys are some ugly sons of bitches. I actually, hold on a second. From my wall, I have a picture. This is actually Matt Painrack shirtless. He posted on his Instagram that I keep hanging up at my house all the time.
Mildly disturbing.
We're from the same area, so it's okay.
Destin's just jealous his picture's not up there. I like Painrack's,
Right. You can see my hairy chest in like 2-pack.
That picture had to be at least 6 years old, but he posted it anyways.
Fantastic.
That's funny. Well, Rich, do you want to keep us going on the topic of scariest conditions you've been out in?
Yeah, probably about a decade ago, fished a Bass Northern Divisional out of Escanaba, Michigan. And so we were taking out Little Bay to knock, but most of the good fishing was at that time was south out in the lake or around to Big Bay to knock. And I'm not sure why they let us out the third day, but they did. And it got really bad. And I mean, it was uncharacteristically big waves. I grew up walleye fishing on Lake of the Woods, and it was pretty gnarly. And like even guys that were from like Michigan and Ohio that were at that tournament said it was way worse because they weren't rollers like they normally are on the Great Lakes. These were like 6, 7, 8, 9 foot breaking waves. They weren't just rollers. I mean, they were true like waves, and it was pretty scary stuff. There was definitely a bunch of guys that didn't try to make it back from Big Bay to knock. There's a bunch of guys that started to turn around. There's a few guys that barely made it back, and then one guy from Wisconsin that actually ripped the motor and the jack plate, twisted it right off the back of his boat trying to go through the waves on a Champion. So it was pretty gnarly, and luckily nobody was hurt, but it was a pretty sticky situation. That's probably the worst.
Speaking of dangerous, has anyone checked in on what's going on at Dale Hollow right now?
Woo! I saw stories from John Hunter, and it looked pretty wild.
Yeah, I saw photos. Yeah, Hunter posted a photo today, or just a story of like them pulling out. It looks they're still fishing. Someone still dropped 23 pounds, but it looks absolutely garbage down there.
Oh, man. Yeah, from our neck of the woods, Bailey, is at Percy Priest, Ken Golub, and he posted that he was idling through like tree break with his bass cat, like hopping trees, and he's like, "I'm just gonna fish a cornfield today because the water's so dang high." And there was like a sunken truck in there, and he's like, "I see a better on a hood of like an 03 Chevy Tahoe that's sunk." So it's just like, oh my god.
Yeah. He like posted his trail, like basically where he on his graph showed his trail where it was, and he must have had mapping like with his Navionics or whatever, and you could see where he looked like he went off of the lake and it went around the cornfield and back onto the lake, but it was all underwater. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah. I drove down to Cumberland on Monday, fished for 3 hours, and drove right back because the water was coming up so much better. I see Backlash Pro says Cumberland isn't much better. It's pretty garbage down there right now.
That's nuts. Forrest, what about you, dude? You crazy redneck from Louisiana. What's the crazy stuff you've seen?
I bet it's.
I don't know. I've had a 17-foot express boat sideways, completely up in the air. Almost sunk that same boat in Texas. Took the kayak down the river. It was blowing 40, so the current was going one way, the wind was going the other. So I was sitting dead ass in the middle of the river, not moving because the wind was blowing harder than the current was pushing. And then I went out on Sodus Bay one day in about 30-mile-an-hour winds, thinking I could get to the marina. And I got there, but I almost died.
I remember that. That was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, was jug fishing one day, grabbed a jug going down the river, and it turned the kayak around and started pulling me upriver. That wasn't really sketchy conditions. That was just like I don't even want to know what the hell was on the end of that.
Yeah.
Probably.
Sheesh. Steve, what about you? Are you still eating? Should we not bother you?
I'm done eating.
Are you sure?
I'm done eating.
I think we have another guest in there, Steve, right next to you.
Oh yeah, that's Cooper.
Hard life.
What are the scariest conditions you've seen, Steve?
I've been in a lot of sketch stuff, but one story that comes to mind always is I was fishing Kentucky Lake with Brandon Card. This was in like 2007 or 2008. We were still in college, but we're in his little skeeter and we were on Kentucky Lake and it was like flat calm, like middle of summer. And this like weird storm literally came out of nowhere. And from flat calm glass to like 4 and 5 foot rollers and like raining so hard you couldn't even see, and lightning, and like he was driving. I was just closing my eyes and like put my head down, but you could feel the when the lightning go over your head, you could feel the electricity like go down your neck. Oof. Like that's how close we were. And we finally like got into this marina and we like got uncovered and everything, and like a bunch of his fuses had blown because like the electricity, that's how close we were to lightning. And like I don't know, it was just like freaking crazy. It soaked me through my Gore-Tex 100-mile-an-hour suit. Like I got actually soaked through, like someone was spraying me with the hose for like 20 minutes. But that was probably that was one of the scary moments because I was so young and I didn't really understand. Like I hadn't been in a lot of boats at that time. So I think that was one of the scariest things. But like, yeah, he's like, yeah, I blew all my fuses like on his graphs and stuff from the lightning. So like you see lightning and then there's usually a delay and you hear thunder. This storm was literally on top of us. Like lightning was like hitting. I'm pretty sure lightning was hitting the water, and simultaneously you could hear the lightning and thunder. That's how close we were. It was insane. From flat calm to like 4 and 5 footers, like big rollers. I don't know if you guys ever been on Kentucky. I'm sure most of you have, but that lake gets nasty quick. It gets real bad. But
I've never been, but I've heard some crazy stories about that place. Hayes, what about you, dude?
I'm gonna take that away from him.
I don't know, man. I've never owned a boat, so I'm in a different category than you guys. But around here, like we do a lot of wet wading, we do a lot of kayaking, obviously. And it was, I think 2 springs ago, I was wading by myself, and you're in like I don't know, it's called a creek, but it's more of a small river. And you start early in the morning, it's like 7, 8 a.m. You start walking upstream. I'm probably 3 or 4 miles from the truck. And then all of a sudden, I just kind of start to notice like the water rising a little bit and it's getting a little dirtier. I'm like, it's a beautiful day. Like it's gorgeous. I'm like, I'm not really sure what's going on here. So I get on my phone and look, and I guess there was a giant storm like an hour north that was dumping like into this, and we're in a giant valley, so all the watershed comes down. It was spring, so it was already like saturated, and this water's just dumping into this creek or river that I'm in, and the banks are like probably 8 to 10 foot up, so you can't really just like hop out and go in the field or whatever and walk away. So you're kind of stuck in there, and it's private property on the other side. So I'm like, oh no. So I start kind of booking it back to the truck, and probably by the time I got like within a mile of the truck, the water had like probably gone up almost 2 feet, and like the flow had doubled or tripled. Like you're like up to here at this point, and you're just like kind of booking it. You're like, oh my God, there's part you have to like swim and stuff to get like to the other side. And I was like, this is awful. And it was like I got back just in time, and then the next day you go and it's like completely blown out. So that was probably the sketchiest thing I've ever been in, where I was like, I need to get out of here before because it was gorgeous. Like 70-degree spring day, not a cloud in sight, but I guess just like far enough north that I didn't know it was there. There was a big storm and it just like flooded the whole place that I was in. I was like,
Jeez.
oh no.
Good.
Yeah, that's never fun.
Andy, what about you, dude? I'm sure you've had your experience with living on Erie.
Oh, the two that come to mind, I don't know which one I can rank worse. I fished in remnants of a hurricane on the Upper Niagara once with like 50-mile-an-hour north winds, and the current flows south to north, so it's stacked like 4 to 6 foot waves in this little river. And at the time, I was a co-angler, so I wasn't driving the boat, and the guy decided to go out in the middle of the river where the waves were the worst. And the first 3 waves we hit, we stuffed and filled the boat up with water, and it was 42 degrees out and raining. That one was pretty miserable. And then the other one was 2 summers ago. I was fishing with Jeff Buffalo, Jeff Hibbert, our buddy.
Oh yes.
We decided to fish a tournament on Erie with severe thunderstorms all around us, and basically had lightning and thunder crackling around. And it got to a point where we're casting and we're catching them, and all of a sudden your braid was going 30 feet up in the air, and you can feel your whole rod and the boat buzzing because the storm was right on top of us. We were about 15 miles away from Buffalo Harbor that we had to run back through the storm. It was just bad. Those are 2 that come to mind pretty.
Sheesh.
No stuffing bows on that one. Jeff is a phenomenal boat driver. So
always good. Got Mr. Derek Hudnall in the chat here. Santee Cooper last year. Day 1 was not fun.
We got Oklahoma's worst angler in here now. Now, if only Sam Toby was in here, we'd have Minnesota's worst angler.
It's a full house here, folks, and we sent the invite out to a few people, and we're just going to keep adding people in until StreamYard does not let us add any more. Just going to make it a party.
I remember day 3 being really, really rough. I don't remember day 1.
On Santee?
Yeah. Day 3 is when it was blowing the whole way across Lake Marion. I left with 45 minutes left, and I literally just got obliterated. But I barely made it in time.
Grief. I don't remember at all.
We've had some bad. Here's a bourbon for you, Derek Hudnall, since you love bourbon.
Bourbon and bass.
Yeah.
We've had some bad days in Sandusky, some of those opens. That one year, I think 9 or 12 boats got totaled in one day or something.
Jesus.
Thank you.
Destin.
Mine did. Day 2.
Yeah, my buddy's hull cracked, and he had to keep his hot foot to the floor just to get into the ramp. And then when he got into the ramp, he put it on the bank, and it filled up with water on the ramp.
Good grief.
Better there in the middle of the lake.
That's true.
Yeah, for sure.
Very true. Well, yeah, we have Oklahoma's worst angler in here, Mr. Epperson. And we were on the topic of scariest conditions you've ever been in while fishing. Would you like to put in your 2 cents?
Yeah, I got one. In a John boat out at Dripping Springs. It was last year, I think it was. And in this John boat, my buddy's only got 1 trolling motor on the front, 1 trolling motor on the back. And this storm was down south, and it started rolling in. And the way Drip is set up, down at the dam, it opens from the south, and the dam is down at the north end. And we probably had 25, 30-mile-an-hour winds out there in this John boat with only 2 trolling motors. We got almost stuck on the dam. The John boat itself had water almost up to the terminals over the batteries. And then the hole had filled up, and then we had about 6 inches of standing water inside. What normally would take us about 15 minutes to get back to the ramp took about an hour. My buddy had an emergency oar that he was paddling with, and I was using a lure retriever pole to push us along the dam. But, there were probably 3-foot rollers that day, and I swear I thought that was the day that we were just going to get stunk. I was going to lose everything. But that's it. Nothing too crazy,
That sounds pretty crazy.
From Oklahoma. You'd have been fishing from a tornado, just going around and around in John boat.
I've done that. Tornadoes aren't- I don't know.
It's normal.
Alex, you have a fellow Oklahoma person. I don't even know what you guys call yourself, Oklahomers or something.
Okie?
What is
No,
it?
they're all Okies from Muskogee.
Okies. Mr. Charles Blood here is also from Oklahoma.
Hell yeah. Oh,
Oklahomers.
can we curse? Sorry.
I'm sure there's more names we could come up with here. But we figured out that StreamYard, the cap is at 10 because we're getting notifications of more people trying to join in
Well,
here.
you can let somebody else in because I do have to jump off. But congrats on 200 episodes, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
Nice seeing you, everybody else too. Have a
Good
great
seeing
night,
you,
guys.
Dustin.
Yeah.
Everybody,
Goodbye.
we're down to 9. So I have no idea who it was that was trying to join us here, but we have room for one more if you'd like to join us. But they're shooting some crazy stuff, at least conditions wise. Like I know Steve, obviously Andy, you have good history. You know, Rich, you have a lot of knowledge of history, and obviously, you know, John, I'm sure you do as well. Like craziest conditions you think you've seen, like professional tournaments being allowed to fish in, where the tournament director is like, yeah, you're good. Is there anything that comes to mind where you're like, how are these guys fishing in this stuff today?
Lake Erie every time I'm there. Seriously, they're like, oh, they're just 5-footers. Go ahead. You get out there like 5-footer, 5 foot up, 5 foot down. It's like insane. But I mean, I've been on Kentucky Lake and some nasty stuff, I guess. Like if there's a north or a south wind, that like just gets nuts. But
It's terrible.
most of the time, the bad stuff like rolls in after everyone's already out there, you know. Because I've actually sometimes they're a little too cautious. I feel like there was an open a couple of years ago on Harris, and they canceled day one because of some big storm that's supposed to roll in, and it was like out of there by like 7:30 or something, and then we just had the whole day off. It was just like we could have fished, but I get it, you know.
David Miller says the recent tournament on Pickwick.
I think they ran that pretty well. I mean, they took 2 days off and then kind of let it. It was high. There was tons of current, but I think at that point it kind of plateaued and there was enough like all the floaters and shit probably were downriver by then. I feel like. But,
yeah, I think if they let them go the first 2 days, that's a whole different story. But,
yeah, that would be irresponsible, I would think.
Right.
There is that. I know people didn't get it with the wind they were talking about and the current. But when I fished Pickwick last November, there's a section down there, like below 7 Mile down to like the Natchez in that area down towards Waterloo. For whatever reason, the way that current and that wind funnels, it does some really crazy things. And you get these really, really long, awkward waves that are really, really tough to run in a bass boat. Like it was like it wasn't windy that day, but with just a little wind, like I couldn't get my cat to stop porpoising. And that's like never an issue. Like it just couldn't get it to lay down. It wouldn't and they were too long to ride. It was just, so I couldn't imagine with all that current they had, and they had, that 25-mile-an-hour winds. It could have been really treacherous. You hear about that like at the Detroit River and a few other places, where it necks down and you get current, and like up in Champlain with the gut or whatever up there. Like there's just some really nasty places when you get current and wind and funneling all together. So
St. Lawrence River is another one. Definitely. John, is there anything that comes to your mind, dude? I know you got some pretty extensive knowledge of professional bass fishing history.
Shit! You caught me. I was texting Paintrack at this second to let him know his new photo was on your podcast. So sorry, you caught me off guard. No, it's me personally. No, I haven't done. If it's shitty conditions, I'm not going to fish. I've had some issues where I've been on the Ohio River kayak fishing, where I've gotten caught under barges, or got real close to barges. I've been on the Ohio River when a guy jumped off a bridge and killed himself. I was fishing, and all of a sudden, all these cop boats were coming around me, and they were like, have you seen someone floating? And as you know, in a kayak, like you're close to the water. So I was scared shitless because I was afraid this guy was going to like float up right where I was fishing. But yeah, thankfully they found him down the river, not right where I was. But no, I mean, living on the Ohio, we have a ton of, I mean, you just don't go on the river when it's bad. It's just, you're an idiot if you do. So, and it's shitty fishing anyway, so there's no point.
Yeah. I had an experience like that in like 2001 on the Illinois River near Peoria.
Oh, that's where I'm from. Represent.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't be proud of that from a bass fishing perspective, but no, but so same thing, like somebody like fell off a jet ski or something like that, and I ran way up to like Chillicothe or whatever up.
Chillicothe.
Yeah, and came back with my 1 12-inch bass, which was a big deal in that tournament. And they had the channel closed down because they were searching. And I had to run some sketchy backwater in August when the water was low that I had never been in to try to get my 1 12-incher back to the weigh-in. And luckily I made it, but that was a sketchy trip and like a weird scenario when you just like it's scary. You come back and they're like roping it off, and they've got all these like Coast Guard police boats, and it's messed up.
Yeah, that's where I grew up fishing the river. I grew up on the river fishing that. It's a terrible place to fish.
For you, I know we have a few kayak guys in here. Obviously, amongst myself, Forrest, and Hayes, and I know Epperson down there. You dabble a little bit, but for you boat guys, is there like a story you guys got where you made a big mistake, like you broke something on the boat or something like that?
I would say buying a brand new boat is a mistake.
Why is that?
Because it's expensive.
I think owning a boat is just expensive in general.
Yeah. Buying a new one's really expensive.
Steve, is there something that came to mind for you pretty quick?
Well, I was at Okeechobee a few years ago with my buddy, two of my friends, and my buddy is like, I don't want to run my boat. I've never been here. I'm like, dude, it's Florida. You ain't going to hit shit. And I'm running it, and he's like, follow your trail. You know, it's safe from when we ran out. And he's like, follow your trail. And I go, I literally am like running. And I'm like, bro, I got this shit. And I fucking hit the only rock that's probably in all of Okeechobee. And he jacked up his prop pretty good. But I was like, there's rocks in here? Because, you know, like, the whole lake's a bowl of mud, basically. But yeah, that was probably the most recent thing. But I haven't really hit anything with my own boat, but I hit something with my friend's boat. So
doesn't it make you wonder how that rock even got there?
I think actually what it was not a rock. It was like a vein or like a jetty or something coming off of the bank or something. We were like it was like around a point going into a canal, so I think it was part of that. But the lake was like 6 feet lower than it was supposed to be or something. Because that whole lake is like 4 feet deep. Like everywhere you go, it's like 3 to 4 foot. So it's like you're not like running like a channel or something, you know? So it's kind of weird.
All right. I think this takes comment of the night.
Oh, yeah, hands down.
On the topic that we're on.
I mean, I bet he's got a pretty good boat story.
Douche.
Yeah. Nobody stopped for him.
I don't know. I think we've got a bigger jerk than him in the chat, though.
Who's that?
Be Hellabass.
No. Shots.
I'm going to give Justin Warner a little shout out here. Last fall, he stuffed the bow and ripped like 5 rods off of this rod in Lake Erie.
No thanks.
Why do you got 5 rods out for Lake Erie? Doesn't you just drop shot?
Multiple drop shot rods.
We got Jeff Buffalo in the chat. He's missed some stories about himself here.
Oh,
what about you, Rich? Any expensive mistakes?
I'm not necessarily mistakes, but like accidents, I guess more so. I had one time one of my older boats, like I don't remember exactly, but some rough water, and the strap broke on one of my batteries, and the battery shifted and knocked my aerator pump and cracked it. So like just broke the pipe off right in the like hole. So like when I opened the compartment, it looked like, you know, the cartoon oils where the stuff just shoots up out of the floor. Like that's the water coming into my boat, like because the pipe broke off. If you ever have that happen, take a ring fry, bend it in half, and put it in there. That is about the perfect size for plugging that hole. And then one time on the
You know about plugging holes.
Yeah. The Mississippi River on Winona, I was running back from my tournament, and I hit a floater or something in the middle of the river, and it took my motor off. So I was going like 57 miles an hour and went from like 57 to 0 in about a third of a second and did a full 720 in the water because like the motor just fell off, hung by the cable. So it just like was an instant anchor, and just the boat just spun around it twice. Luckily, neither one of us got ejected, but it was.
That reminds me of a story. I was fishing a Angler's Choice tournament on Kentucky Lake, and the guy, it was flooded, and a boater cut the corner on the big bridge, and he smoked one of the cross beams, and the motor flew into the boat and killed his co-angler. So, yeah, that happened. That was in 2000. When was that? 2013 or something. Yeah, that was pretty bad. Pretty bad.
Time to end the show. Good job, guys. See you guys later.
What?
What?
That was ugh.
Oh, Steve's story. I'm
Well, I mean, it's depressing. Yeah, it's not a good story. Like, don't cut the cross beams or don't cut across the bridges. Like, go through the big quarter-mile wide open spot with the channel markers.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think the moral of the story is don't cut corners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Kentucky Lake, if you're not paying attention to the buoys, you're gonna run amok. It's crazy. It's that and Barkley. It's crazy.
Barkley's insane.
Yeah,
No.
I prefer Barkley over Kentucky, to be honest, fishing wise. But yeah,
I'll tell you what else is a fun lake to navigate. It's Toledo Bend. Freaking, you hit every damn stump in the lake if you ain't in the channel.
Yeah, I heard Toledo Bend's really tough because you have to run the channel no matter which way the wind is going.
Yeah, no. If you don't get out of that channel, you know, be prepared to break something.
Yeesh.
And then there's most lakes in Florida where you just run around. It's all sand.
One year down on Lake Fork, me and my dad were fishing a tournament, and we were fishing out of an 18.5-foot aluminum boat. Well, the wind picked up, probably had 3-foot rollers. We had a 21-foot nitro come by us. When we came down between the waves and his crosswake, the bottom weld on the boat split. We had a 4-foot split weld underneath the boat on day 2 of this tournament. And we're sitting there running across the lake, and we're sitting in the chairs, and there's water up to our knees. And we couldn't figure out why. Get back to the boat and pull the boat off the water. My dad's looking all around the back of the boat and just ignores a shower of water coming out of the front of the hole. There's about a 1/4-inch wide gap where that weld had split. And being on Lake Fork with 300 other boats is not a good time for that one to happen.
No.
You need flex seal.
I don't think there's ever a good time for your boat to break in half. But.
Really not. I actually have that boat sitting outside my house now because it was given to me after that one. Told me to fix it.
Did you fix it?
Oh, I bought a new one.
Simple man fix.
Send it.
It's hard to find somebody to weld an aluminum boat without having to flip it over.
Sell it on Craigslist. Someone will buy it.
Plug me next week.
There you go. Andy, any expensive mistakes?
My biggest one today with my boat is when I hit a boulder and like 2 foot of water as I was idling out of an area that I knew there was big boulders and there's like 3.5 mile-an-hour current. I clipped it in. Been over 2 years on my prop and thankfully didn't bend my prop shaft, but that's pretty much it at this point. Yeah, put like a 65-degree angle cuff on my ear on the prop. Yeah, that was good.
Sheesh.
I was doing about 1.5 miles, smoke it, just idling and the whole boat jarred real hard to the right, and I was like, uh-oh. Yeah, that was
Are there some stories we're not hearing about, Andrew? I think Sean says you're missing something.
I found my favorite picture of Pangrak, by the way.
Oh, let's see.
Oh, yeah, post it up.
Oh, hold on. Wow.
That's gold. That's so good. I think that's Instagram worthy.
You did some searching on that one. Good
I
work.
was looking for it. Chip Forche sent me that in 2015. I still have it.
Nice. It's kind of like that picture I have you screenshotted from your college bass days, Steve.
Oh yeah, which one is it?
Oh, I shared it in the chat.
Oh man!
But hey, Andy, Bailey, congrats on 200, guys. I'm gonna bounce. Thanks for inviting me. You guys have a good rest of the show, and we'll catch you guys later.
Yeah, appreciate it, Rich. Have fun on your stream.
Oh, what time's Rich's stream?
I think at 9 Eastern.
Are we on straight cast yet?
Bertrand? What's that?
Is it straight cast?
Is what?
Are we on straight cast yet?
Are we on straight cast yet?
I'll text Pat right now.
I don't see Bill Owen on here.
No.
So another expensive story that Sean is probably referring to there in the chat. I was fishing with his dad, and I had like a 3.5, 4 foot northern smoke a Sammy, like 4 feet from the boat on a Rockaway bait, and it decided to jump. So my natural instinct was, I was young and dumb, I'm just gonna boat flip it while it smokes. And while it jumped into the boat, I also managed to break 3 of the 4 rods I had with me.
Oh, jeez.
That was a pretty good story.
What kind of rods?
They were all like same play avids to whatever that step was above the.
Did you see it? Did you guys get to look at that new St. Croix at all?
Did they I have not.
The Legend Extreme or whatever. It's like $600 or something.
Yeah,
that's a new one. Oh,
I see that, and I see 3 rods I could buy.
Yeah, exactly. But
that's just me. I'm not made of money. But on the flip side of big, costly mistakes, let's switch gears to more of a positive light and not talking about things that probably give us PTSD. But maybe like the first thing that comes to mind, like one of your best days on the water. It might not even be like your biggest bag or whatever, but something that comes to mind, like your favorite day on the water. Epperson, you want to kick us off there? You bearded freak down there at the bottom?
Dude, favorite day on the water, I mean, it still is my biggest, my PB. I think it was probably my favorite day just because of the fact that, John, my buddy, I was on his boat. He had cast this spot probably 3 different times with the frog. And I cast in the same spot, different frog working just a little bit different, and pulled out that 911. And then later in the day, he had fired back into some grass and had a fish blow up, and he missed it. And I told him to get back in there, and he's getting all fucking worked up, shaky, and blasts his cast and blasts a hellacious backlash. I mean, his frog goes 15 foot from the boat and just stops. And I was like, that fish is still there. So I literally fired right back in there and pulled out a 6-pounder right after that, which would have been his new PB at the time. So it was just a day that he was so salty, and he still argues to this day and says that he wasn't, that he was hyped up. You watch that video, he is just pissed all day. Salty.
Bad day for him, good day for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's my best day. That is my most memorable day by far.
Heck yeah. Charles, what about you, man?
I had it in my head until you talked to me.
Do you want me to move on to somebody else?
Come back.
Hayes, what about you?
From bubbles after getting out of the bath. So.
Oh man.
I think pure like best fishing day, like the most memorable fishing day I have would be what was it, 3 years ago when I landed my first muskie. Like there was a while where we decided that, like, me and my buddy Jeff, we were like, there's a lake probably 45 minutes from me that has muskie, but they're teabagged all day long, and it's the most pressured lake you've ever seen in your entire life, and it's awful. And every muskie that you see there looks like a zombie because it's been caught or hit by boat props 8 different times. Like it's awful. But we decided that we wanted to go out and we wanted to try and target muskie. And I was 3 years into it when I boated my first fish from there. So just the amount, like 10,000 casts times 5 probably. And it was just like one of those things. I'd had fish break off. I'd lost fish, everything. And you finally got the first one on the boat. And I just remember being like happier than any bass I've ever caught, happier than any day out on the water. Cause it was like, okay, you stick with it for 3 years and you finally land one of these things. And it was so cool. But as far as bass goes, it was last fall. I probably had the best day of fishing around here I've ever had. I caught a 6 and probably 3 or 4 4s, which around here is a big deal. I know if you're down south, it's not, but you know, for like Central Ohio public water, it was a pretty darn good day in the kayak. And, you know, just one of those days where everything lined up. They were where they should be. They were eating the way they should be. And, you know, you find them and you have confidence like, okay, within the next 3 casts, I'm going to catch a keeper. And you just sit there for like 3 hours and you're on them. And it was just like, oh, you just wish it was like that every day.
Yeah, I can, dude. Random question, Hayes, but are you in a band with all your guitars back there?
I used to be.
You used to be? What kind? What kind of music?
I was in like a rock band for a while, and then I played guitar in college for a girl, but I was...
You were that guy with the acoustic guitar at the party?
When you're a college kid and you're telling me I can get like 75 cents a head and a free tab a night, yeah, I'll play your Carrie Underwood covers if you want. I don't really care.
Genius.
That's nice.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. But yeah, I used to be in a band. I got all kinds of...
Thanks, son. Yeah. I mean, we could do straight cast and have Hayes sing for us.
I don't sing.
Hopefully you're better than that. So. That doesn't take much, though.
That's funny. Steve, what about you, dude? What comes to mind?
I got a lot of memorable stories, but I think the one day that's always going to live in my mind forever is the
fishing with me.
I mean, I'm sure you had a blast not catching anything, but
there's the Steve I've heard about.
No, but
you're being way too nice.
The best day, I mean, obviously the best day for me is on Gunnersville, the English Choice Championship, day 1. I've probably told this story before, but it's in 2012, day 1. Me and my buddy, we had literally the most epic day you could ever have in a tournament, especially during like a championship. We were boat number 5 because like we won our division, so like the anglers of the year for each division got like the first so we were like, our division was like number 5, so we were boat number 5 or whatever, and we ran to our first spot and we had 19 pounds in like the first 30 minutes or something. And then we ran to another spot and we freaking smashed them. I'll keep the story short, but we had 36 pounds with 5 that day. And then the next day we had like 22 something and we ended up winning the tournament by 8 pounds. And that's how I got my first boat. So that'll forever be the greatest day of fishing for me anyway. Is that day 1, that tournament. We had 3 8-pounders and we called 3 6-pounders. You know, I mean, not many times you'll hold 2 6-pounders on a balance beam and not be sure, like, is this the smallest fish? You know, because it's like you feel like you're doing something wrong when you're throwing back 6-pounders in a tournament. I'm just like I would hold the fish over the edge and I'm like, I don't want to let it go because I don't know if it's actually the smallest one it is. But that was the most epic day of fishing I've ever been around.
Hellbass is still here in the chat.
Yep. On a spinning rod, we were throwing a 65-pound braid with an A-rig on a spinning rod.
Perfect. What was the action like on that rod?
I've done that.
We're using snook rods.
Nice.
7.6 snook rods, yeah.
That's too good.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
That was pretty awesome day. But I mean, we've all had pretty awesome days, you know. The most recent one was like the Harris chain day 2 recently for me. that open, jumping from 145th to 29th. Like that's like the highs and lows we always talk about in tournament fishing. It's like the first day I just go home and just drink beer, don't even put gas in the boat, and then the second day I'm like on top of the world. It's just
Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah, dude, it's fun.
Yeah. Charles, have you thought about your most memorable day yet?
Yeah, it came back to me. My most memorable day is probably the day we qualified for the FLW Nationals on the Yeti Series. We're fishing our qualifier on Fort Gibson. And all day, I think I caught 3 forks, and my co-angler and my boater caught 1 because I was fishing the co-angler at that time and point. And going into the last 30 minutes, we had no weighable fish. We were done. We were giving up on that tournament. There's a chance to qualify. We decided 30 minutes left. Let's run down to the marina next to the boat ramp. Pull in. There's 15 other boats in there. We start just kind of flipping around docks. My buddy, he flips in, a shaky head, catches a 5.5. Within that next 15 minutes, him catching 3 and me catching 2, we filled our limit and overall took 5th and qualified for the Nationals. So that was a pretty special day for me.
Heck yeah, dude.
Never give up.
Can't give up.
That was my first qualifier in my freshman year of college. So
Nice.
I went back with a big head that year.
Heck yeah, dude. Steve, were you saying something?
I just said you can't be giving up, man.
Oh,
Who says that? Who says that? I can't remember who that is.
Mike Iaconelli, I believe.
Oh, never heard of him.
It was actually a song that he put on YouTube called Never Give Up. It's quite the song to listen to.
Wait, he put out a song on YouTube?
Yeah, it's Never Give Up by Mike Iaconelli. I don't know if he's actually the one who made it, but it's posted on his account.
All right.
Oh, I didn't even know that there was a music video on Iaconelli's channel.
If it's posted on his account, it's probably not him. It's probably
Does this Iaconelli guy fish?
Yeah.
Wow.
What's best is when Iaconelli gets on Bass University and doesn't realize it's Ike Live and just starts saying "fuck this" and "fuck that," and they're like, "Whoa, calm down." Like on the last one with Scroggins, he kept saying shit, and they were just like, "No, this isn't Ike Live, guys. You need to calm down."
The fair part of massive freakouts and big emotions he had.
He's a great guy, though.
Not watching him.
Yeah. Talk about a crew over there.
So I never told my story, so I guess I'm going to interrupt and do mine.
Yeah, dig in, John.
It actually involves Iaconelli. So my story has nothing to do with a bass that's over 2 pounds. So this fall in October, one of my best friends was getting ready to go through bladder cancer surgery. So I'm a big, huge beer nerd, and saved back a bunch of good beers. And so we went to a couple farm ponds, and he wanted to go fishing. And I'll be honest, he's a shit fisherman. I mean, just shit. Like, he's got all these Walmart shitty lures, and I'd tie him on some good stuff. And I just threw on a Senko and could literally, in these ponds, call my shot. And was just catching bass after bass. And my buddy was flipping his shit because he's like, "How are you doing it?" And I'm just like, "It's just simple." And long story short is, had a great day, drank some good beers, got on my way home, jumped on the Ike Live, and started fighting with Dave and everyone else on Ike Live.
Wait, was that the day you wore the dress?
I wore a dress? I usually drink when I do this. I may have. But what came of that Ike Live thing is Paul Benson, who's the VP of Cash and Rods, watched it and does NPFL shit because he's one of the owners. And he contacted me the next day. He was like, "Hey, I think you're a giant dumbass, and I like your work." And so that was probably one of the most beneficial days of like I got a bunch of fishing connections and had a great day catching like 1 to 2 pound fish. And I would take that day with my friend who was going through cancer surgery over any like 10 to 12 pound bass any day of the week. So,
Heck yeah, dude. Heck awesome. Yeah. Andy?
Whew. I feel like there's quite a few, and they all deal with smallies. Most memorable tournament probably happened this past fall with Destin. When calling out 5-pounders, and you're just like, are these really this big? Kind of like in Sandersville. Like, I got to a point at like 1 PM where I boat flipped a 4.5 pounder on 6 pound test on a 6'10" spinning rod because it was like, if it breaks off, I'll just retie because it doesn't help. And then you put it in, you're like, oh, that one might have been really 5. Now I got to go check them all. Like that was crazy. And the other memorable moment was my first year tournament fishing in a little Finger Lake. I caught a 6.5 pounder in a tournament. Like I think we had 28 boats that day in the club derby. I came in second with a 6.5 pounder, total scrub, not a clue what I was doing. And Bailey still makes fun of me for this day for loving that lake so much. But out of all the 6-pounders I've caught there, I think that lake has produced 3 of them out of all the 6-pound fish I've caught. So it's pretty high on my list.
I hate that lake. I don't always hate that lake.
Whatever.
Well, I think real quick for mine, it's not one kind of like how you guys mentioned. It's not one like where I caught a PB or anything like that, or caught giants or whatever. It's one where
me.
It's what?
It's the day you fish with me.
I didn't catch anything, so it's definitely not the day with you.
Whose fault is that?
It was I think I caught what? 1 bass and 1 striper. That was about it. But either way, it was my first striper, so it was memorable, Steve.
There you go.
There you go. No, it was a day on a local Finger Lake that conditions, like it was supposed to be, windy, blowing into the certain bank I wanted to fish, and basically it was typical New York fashion. The weather's always wrong. It was slick, calm, sunny, and basically all these females were making a wave, pushing shit out of these cattails, all these reeds, and basically they were sitting so high in the water column, and the sun was so high, and then obviously everything was slick, calm, that you could see them 20, 30 yards out, and basically just had a 40, 50 fish day sight fishing with a mag draft. And I was just laughing like a little kid, little schoolgirl, because I was just having so much fun watching these 4 or 5 pounders eat a mag draft. Didn't catch like a giant bag, but like it was still probably the most fun just out of pure watching these fish just destroy your swim bait. And it's a 6 and an 8 inch swim bait that you're throwing. So like watching them eat big baits and react to them and actually be able to see cast to catch was pretty cool. So that's probably mine. But real quick, Alex down there, I'm really intrigued because I've looked at the sign a few times, but your fish naked sign, what does it say down the bottom right?
Show off your
Winchester.
Show me your bobbers.
Oh, is that what it says?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was just intrigued. I had to call it out.
Buddy, he brought a whole bunch of old fishing stuff over because he was cleaning out his garage, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll take it all.
I'll take it all.
Bring it on over."
Hey, Bailey, I have a question for you.
What's up?
How are you at constructive criticism?
How do I react to constructive criticism? Yeah. I'm fine with it. Why?
I will say I've been listening to your podcast for a while, and your podcast has gotten 1 million times better since you got rid of saying 100%. And I know you joked about it, but it was a transitional crutch that you used, like when you didn't know what it was, like in a speech. And since you cut that out, your podcast has went so much smoother and better, in my opinion, over the past like 6 months. And it's top notch anyways. So,
well, I appreciate that, John. I'm sure that was a message from Rich telling you to say something like that.
No. That's as a former professor, that's shit I notice, like during speeches and talk. So I'd always pick up on that. But yeah, dude, it's minus Andy, he sucks. But everything else,
I appreciate that. No, but
Well, I appreciate it nonetheless, John. But it's funny that you say that because Alabass in the chat always makes fun of me for saying 100%. So we kind of created this little drinking game that every time I say 100%, Rich has to drink. So it's just one of those funny things. It's funny you bring it up, but yeah, I appreciate that.
yeah, no problem.
But
I was
gonna
expecting
put out
much more.
a little side note there. Since the drinking game got mentioned, your use of 100% has dramatically decreased. So Rich is definitely making out on this.
Rich is winning. We have a pretty cool question here from John Welsh. And he wants us to talk about who is your mentor and who have you mentored. I think is a really cool topic. Would anyone like to start us off here? Alex? Down yonder?
Well,
The face says it all.
I think my dog's
You know,
choking to death.
my dad got me into fishing, but he doesn't know shit about bass fishing.
Oh, you
Um,
farted. Get out. Get out.
Mainly most of my
sidebar.
buddies snag for spoonbill. Yeah, I don't know if I have a fucking mentor. Maybe Steve when it comes to big baits. Maybe Chris when it comes to pure fishing. Otherwise, no. I mean, I don't have this name for no reason. All right.
You are your own mentor. I got
And
it.
just fucking send it and figure out what works and go from there. That's it. And who have I mentored? Hopefully nobody. Good Lord, I mean, my kids. I've taught them to be afraid of fishing. They tell me that I get mad, and that's not true. I mean, I yell at them when I tell them I don't get mad. I'm like, that's not true at all. That's a fucking lie. But yeah, I would say me. I am my mentor. I have made myself the worst angler in Oklahoma. And if anyone is taking advice from me, just don't.
I think that's perfect. I think that's a great note to sign off for tonight. That's good. What about you, Charles?
I swear, I can fish. I got nobody. It's just me. I started fishing to get out of drinking. So,
props to you, buddy.
Yeah. Alcohol.
Charles, what about you, man?
To get out of alcoholism.
Heck yeah.
I grew up with my grandpa teaching me originally how to fish between walking rivers and just fishing holes for catfish or whatever bites. After some time, my dad, from watching Bassmasters, got into bass fishing, and he pretty much showed me how to throw a Texas rig and a crankbait on our little lake here. And from there, I just kind of self-taught myself, kind of just watching the pros of going through YouTube, learning all the different tips and tricks, picking up something new and just trying it. One person I tried to mentor before they got into girls and dirt bikes was my little brother. It was all about fishing until he realized for the most part of the time it's not catching, it is fishing. And he actually asked me if I wanted to go fishing tonight with him. I told him I had prior engagements. And he turns around and he sends me this picture of one of the bigger hybrids they caught tonight, along with a picture of the stringer that they had for the night.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dude.
So,
Steve, when I was with you, was that a hybrid or a striper?
it's a hybrid.
Hybrid?
I know up north a lot of people call them wipers. It's a mix between a white bass and a striped bass, which
I always get confused.
natural. They're all stock fish.
Fucking fun. They're a blast.
Oh yeah, hardest fighting fish you'll ever come across.
I hate them things.
You never want to catch them on a jerk bait. It is the most terrifying thing. You think a mad 1 pound smallmouth's bad, and you should see a 5 pound hybrid with a jerk bait in its mouth.
They get in the hydrilla down here. You'll be on Harris throwing a chatterbait and hydrilla, and one of those will smoke it, and you'll think you have a nice one, and then nope. It's not.
Tournaments out here thinking I just hooked into a 10-pound bass, flipping trees up in the back of a river, and it'd be a 30-pound hybrid flying at me.
Around here, they'll use like 10-foot, 12-foot surf rods, and they'll drift at the dams and like the low heads and stuff, and then they'll let them run like 50, 60, 70 yards and pull them in on these giant surf rods here, like rednecks with 12-foot surf rods. That's what we do.
We get them down here doing it in the spillway.
That's what we do for spoonbill.
Those videos were crazy, Alex, with the spoonbill.
Man, they've been trying to get me to go out ever since it started to warm up, and I might go out on. Well, I was planning on going on Sunday, but I guess it's Easter. I'll probably still go.
So they eat those things? I mean, what do they do with them?
Cut them up and fry them.
Yeah, you get a limit of 2 to keep.
I mean, are they good, or are they just kind of like a thing? Like, let's just go kill something.
It's more like just hook them and send them back.
Has anyone ate Asian carp? Raise your hand.
Of course I have.
It's all over here.
It's not bad, actually.
Yeah, they call it Kentucky white. The fancy restaurants call it Kentucky whitefish, and it's not bad.
Really?
It's better than tilapia.
From what I hear,
it's what?
Delicacy in Asia, but tilapia is disgusting. Who would ever eat tilapia?
Idiots.
What? I like tilapia.
Do you know where farmed raised tilapia come from?
River pellets and
No, fish farm.
so bad for you.
I don't care.
They feed them shit.
They
Literally shit.
It's
Yellow
literally
stick
going to
river
be
pellets.
shit in 2 hours after I eat it, so it doesn't matter what.
It tastes good at the time. That's all that matters to me.
Ugh.
Guess somebody went on the hot dog get made.
Spend a couple extra dollars and get some real fish.
Yeah.
Two miles from the lake, I'll go catch mine.
Ugh.
John, what about you, man? Who's your mentor, and who have you might have mentored?
So one of my dad's weed smoking buddies started taking me like I was spoiled in Central Illinois. If you could ever be spoiled, I had my step grandpa had 2 huge lakes and 7 strip mine pits, so I could fish whatever I want, and I thought I was pretty good. And so I started fishing tournaments with my dad's weed smoking buddy, and we would just fish the river and flip Jean LaRue salt craws, like the original salt craws that were like straight as an arrow. And
Mississippi River?
Spoon River? I grew up in the Spoon River. That's where
What river were you guys fishing?
yeah, river, Illinois River and Spoon River. But yeah, so he took me under his wing and taught me how to fish a river. And I think we fished a whole year of tournaments, and I caught 1 fish. But he kind of taught me the ins and outs of fishing, of like, hey, if you're fishing these big lakes and big waters, what you're doing in ponds doesn't equate. And so over time, I learned that. And then actually a good friend of mine, her son fishes for a local college team. And so I kind of took him under my wings, and I'd take him out and do well. He actually got 5th. They got 5th on Lake of the Ozarks last weekend. And then they just did one at Chick that he was, I think, 39. So I guess that would be my mentoree, even though he's probably a better goddamn fisherman than I am. But yeah, so that's where it's at.
Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Ace, what about you, man?
My mentor, like my dad, definitely got me into fishing. I don't think I didn't. Forrest. You can't leave.
I just laughed at Forrest's thing.
But he definitely got me into fishing. I didn't learn most of what I know now from him. Now it's kind of the opposite. I think I'm kind of teaching him a lot of stuff, but he definitely got me into it. And then it was like TV and reading articles and the Field and Stream magazines and stuff like that, that's where I learned a lot of my stuff. Like someone said earlier, I think it might have been Charles, like just kind of self-taught. And then, definitely not in person. I don't think I really mentor too many people, but I'm trying to put together a thing around here. I'm not completely done with it yet, but I'm trying to find a way to do like an outreach kids thing around here with all like our leftover used tackle. Like I'm one of those guys that goes through my tackle like every spring and tries to clear out the stuff that I just know I've let sit in there, and I'm going to buy a new, 1.5, and I'm not going to use that one. So trying to put all that stuff together and make some packs to kind of donate to some kids around here. So still trying to figure out how all that's logistically going to work, but trying to put together something for within the next year.
Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Sweet. Steve, what about you, dude?
Mentor? Well, my mom was the one who took me with one of her work friends the very first time I ever went fishing. And then my dad, I don't think he really liked fishing, but he would take us and kind of like, but now he loves it, and then for the tournament thing, the big thing was when I got to U of I joined the club there. And this was before college bass fishing was a thing. There's a couple older guys there that would take me out fishing and stuff. And then after that, tournament fishing wise, like some buddies in the area. But one good friend's the guy I won the boat with, Paul Malone. We won a lot of stuff together, and I really learned how to. I think the biggest thing I learned from him was how to like close out a tournament, or like really, try to make those tough decisions on the fly. He's probably one of the best fishermen that I've ever fished with in my life that was like a closer. Like guys talk about like Brandon Polnick, as a closer, like he knows how to win a tournament. There's a lot of guys that can do well, and it's for some reason some guys just figured out a way to like close it out,
Yeah.
Can we block Forrest from talking?
Steve, where do you go to school at?
Illinois, Champaign.
Oh, you ever go to Cam's or Marianne's?
Oh yeah, Marianne's Diner. You go to Cam's, then you go to Marianne's for the stack of pancakes.
I'm an Illinois State grad, so a lot of my friends went to U of I and were in stupid farm fraternities and shit. So,
Farmhouse?
Farmhouse. Oh, yeah, represent.
Yeah, I was in Theta Chi. We were next door.
Oh, that's awesome. I feel like we're now best friends. Thanks.
Oh, yep. Like step.
You don't want Steve as a best.
Steve hates everybody.
Yeah, that's why. That brings me to the next point. Have I mentored anyone? Definitely not.
Alex Perrick?
Maybe. Me and Perrick used to fish some tournaments together. I tried to mentor him, but he got too big for me. So
He left you.
he left me.
Going to U of I, all you had was Clinton Lake and Shelbyville and all those little shithole places. There really wasn't anywhere. So
Shelbyville, actually, Clinton is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
If you guys hear weird noises, it's my pugs. So
It happens.
It's just my pug.
Did you say pug?
Pugs. Like I got two of them. There's one right here.
I'll be right back.
I wish you could zoom.
He's trying to sleep.
I'm really annoyed though by your clocks in the background. I've been staring at them because they're off and out.
Oh, they don't move.
We got another
Hey,
plug.
Charles got a
Guys,
plug.
standing clocks.
It's like a Men in Black plug right there.
Yeah. He is
That's
pissed.
He did not like being on the stream.
Yeah, you woke me up.
No, she is.
We got this shit show.
I got a black one too.
I think we're getting a black one next. She's still in her Velociraptor stage, so she can't sit still.
Yeah.
Paying attention to something.
You just had to feed them.
That's hilarious. Andy, what about you, dude? Mentor and mentoree.
I've had quite a few mentors. Like I came from a family of non-fishermen, so I'm like first-gen fisherman, I guess. But I had a neighbor who used to take me fishing all the time, live bait fishing, basically keep and eat everything we caught. But then to get into tournament fishing, Sean Fergus was in the chat a few times. Him and his dad really like trickling by the wayside and do a bunch of stuff. So ever thankful to that. And then what do I mean?
About little cities.
I wouldn't say I've ever really like mentored anybody. But basically anybody that will ask questions, I'm usually pretty good about giving honest answers to if it's good or bad. Besides Steve. Steve can just go.
What?
Exactly.
What did I say?
Nothing. I
No,
said
to be honest, Steve gets really good industry advice.
she does.
I've used Steve as a resource before.
For what?
I was just throwing shade.
Oh,
He was messing with you, Steve, but I was giving you some clout.
can't throw shade on a star.
So, Steve, did you see nothing here? We want you to give us some honest opinion on some folks.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I can do that.
Oh, I'll do it because I have. I'll tell you one of the shittiest. I can tell you some of the shittiest people in the industry. I don't care.
Tater chip.
Rick Morris, fucking, he can take that visor and shove it up his ass.
Oh Jesus! All right.
So Rick Morris, one time we're fishing Kentucky Lake, a little club tournament, and he rolls up. And he's like, "How'd y'all do?" Because like we're having a barbecue afterwards, and we're like, "All right, here's our lead." He's like, "Y'all can suck," and I was like, "Okay." And then he ended up getting like the top last 3.
Okay.
And ever since I've seen him, I've wanted to shove that visor up his ass. So Rick Morris is terrible. And
I haven't heard very many good things about him, but
I tell you what, Edwin Beavers.
What are you doing?
Edwin Beavers. That's what I call him, Edwin Beavers. He, I tell you what, he makes pecans, but I tell you, that man with his tight jeans smuggles a little bigger nuts than those jeans. But he's a pretty good guy. But Rick,
Have say good night.
good night, kid.
his dog turned into a child. What happened?
Yeah, I've had a lot of good. There's a lot of good. I've had conversations with a lot of people in the industry to where you can figure out pretty quick who's really awesome and who's kind of a shitbird really quickly in the fishing industry.
I just got to shout out. John Cruz is a good freaking dude.
Oh, dude,
I really appreciate him. He's done a lot.
Can you send me some shirtless photos of John Cruz?
Huh?
Can you send me shirtless photos of John Cruz?
No.
You want it next to Pangrag on your wall?
That dude works out more than anyone I know. So.
I mean, John Cruz owns his own bait company and then fishes the elites. He also, unlike a lot, handles his own social media. I mean, that tells you as much as like how much of an on par professional he is. That's how much I respect John, because he handles it better than most people. I mean, he does it all himself.
He's super humble too. Like you can just talk to him. He'll tell you. He's not.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just gonna throw it out there because now that we're on the topic of people we don't like in the industry. Well, what's the new page out there that's been floating around? The Not Boy Duckett or Boy Duckett Brother or something?
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. It's just some dude. He has not a lot of followers. It's
Dick Duckett.
Yeah, Dick Duckett. It's not Masturbators, which is Masturbators is pretty good. It's just some dude who's not happy with shit. It's okay, but
I'm good.
yeah, whatever. That's basically whatever.
Yeah.
You learn, and I've talked with you, Bailey. You learn really quick of who works together. Like, go with John Cruz. John Cruz works with Ish. John Cruz works with Ike. He also works with Brian Schmidt, who also works with XYZ. So everything's connected. and all those guys look out for each other, and they all respect each other, and that's how it should be. In regards.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a whole other topic for a whole other show. Is like, not just anglers, but when you take two organizations that are trying to outbeat each other rather than try to both prevail at the same time, it just like trying to schedule over each other, that sort of thing. It just doesn't. There's no good to come from anything like that if that's kind of like what the topic we're talking about. But I don't know.
Let's take, for example, Tin Cup Whiskey. So, and I've talked with you. Tin Cup Whiskey sponsors certain people in the kayak and the BP, in the Bassmaster Elite, and just kind of how things evolve and are connected. It's very interesting when you kind of dissect everything. So
yeah, definitely. Well, getting back on the topic of the mentor, one that I really need to give a shout out to mentor wise is someone who's actually taught me a lot of what my confidence is right now. I mean, my confidence fishing wise right now is fishing offshore. That's where my strengths lie, is picking that apart, and I credit a lot of that to my buddy Alex Coral, who's actually been on the show in the comments wise, has come in clutch for some really good comments for some of our guests we've had. He taught me how to fish offshore. He kind of invited me out in his boat because we were having a simple conversation over Instagram and telling him I had no experience offshore whatsoever. And he's like, "Hey, dude, you can come on my boat anytime." He goes, "I'm going to Erie, in the next couple of days or whatever. You can hop on the boat, meet me there, and I'll kind of teach you the ins and outs, basics of just breaking down offshore structure and crap like that." And so huge shout out to Alex because, obviously I wouldn't say he's like a mentor because a lot of my upbringing through the fishing industry is me on my own. Like my father's fish, my uncle's fish, grandfather's fish, but like their fishing is like going and taking a bay liner, anchoring it in the middle of a flat, and dead sticking a sluggo for a couple hours, and that's about as far as it goes. So they got me into it, which I'm extremely appreciative of. But like I've been basically kind of self-taught, which is, to be honest with you, it bit me in the butt a couple times because I've done some of the, like whether it's like posting your spots or something like that, where it's like a touchy subject for nowadays that people talk about. But like sometimes I'm self-taught with, but Alex kind of helped me see the way through a bunch of different things. And since then, Andrew's been a good mentor for me, fishing wise. And but Destin, that was on with us earlier, has been a really good mentor for me as well. So I got
a good dude for sure.
Yeah.
Can I bring up something real quick, because I don't know if you guys follow, but a girl from my hometown, so a small town about 6,000 people, is now head of Barstool Outdoors.
Really?
Is it?
I didn't hear about that.
If you don't follow
daughter, whatever her name
Wells,
yeah,
whose dad is a amazing hunter, you should. So
what is her
Sydney
name?
Wells is from my hometown. I think I may have been her school counselor. I can't remember because I'm getting old. But yeah, definitely give her a follow.
Yeah, I've been watching Tim's stuff forever. Tim's stuff's awesome.
Oh, Tim's, and he's from literally like 10 minutes from my house. Like he's a good old Billy.
Slock man.
But yeah,
that's
it's
pretty
awesome.
cool. I didn't know that, dude.
Yeah,
that's pretty sick. I think
she went from 8,000 followers to 117 in 2 days.
Holy shit. That's insane.
That's a lot.
I think what I took out of that most was that you were a school counselor. I don't know who the heck would hire you for that.
That's how, yeah. Yeah, that's all my education that's not paying off. So,
that's funny. Yeah, real quick, on the flip side of mine, mentoring. I don't mentor anybody at this point that I consider a mentoree. And you definitely don't want me as your mentor. So we're just going to cover that real quick. But you guys have any pressing topics that we want to discuss before we sign off here in a little bit? Is there anything you guys want to?
I want everyone to give up, and I hate the word, one juice topic. One juice thing. You have to give up one juice thing, and I'll start. So I started building my own Tokyo rigs because I didn't want to pay for them. And with the Tokyo rig, I started using lizards because if you remember, Godzilla destroyed Tokyo. So the rig is called the Godzilla rig. And you use
I saw Godzilla vs. Kong today. It's pretty good.
Is it good?
you use the 6-inch zoom lizard on a Tokyo rig. And last spring, I destroyed them on the Godzilla rig. So that's my juice.
Godzilla rig.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that.
What size weight?
I love that.
Oh, I don't know. I don't pay attention to the size of my pole.
Grab and go, obviously. Just pick one and go.
Yeah.
6'10", medium light.
Yeah.
Contest.
I still use a 6'6" all-star spinning reel for my jerkbait, so I don't care.
Are you riding the Matt Robertson ugly stick wave?
Oh yeah.
I haven't even checked. Does he actually use ugly sticks?
Oh yeah, he does. He does.
He does.
Oh, damn, that's baller.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him. I'm trying to think of somebody else is gonna have to go next because I can't think of something like juicy that I do. Steve, let's get some Harris chain waypoints. That's not all juicy
Did
stuff.
I tell you about the guy that kept asking me for info?
You what?
Did I tell you that story? Some dude that I never met before sent me a message. He's like, "Hey, I got a tournament on so and so lake, whatever lake," and he's like, "Can you give me some spots?" Not even like asking for. I freaking gave him the GPS coordinates to North Korea. He never responded after that.
He probably got the point.
Trying to think. Juice. Something I do. I do a lot of weird shit.
High C or fruit punch, obviously. Juice.
Oh. Fruit punch. I'm trying to think what I mean. I guess one thing, it's kind of not really juicy, but I do throw like a 4-inch wacky worm a lot more than a 5-inch. I feel like no one really ever does throw that. What are you doing? I definitely throw a 4-inch Senko a lot more than a 5. I guess that's kind of juicy.
Do you have a reason behind it, or you just do it because it's confidence?
Because no one else does it.
It's fair enough.
I'll throw a lot of like dark colors in clear water because not a lot of people do that either. Like crystal clear water, like a black and blue jig and crystal clear water. I've caught some really good fish doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess one thing, Florida, everyone throws prop baits and stuff. Something that I do throw quite a bit that gets a lot of bites is a floating jerk bait. So,
like an old Rattler or something.
Yeah, like an old plain Rapala or floating Rogue or something. You just fish it the same, just floating on top like a prop bait, but it'll get bit. Some key bites here and there.
Nice.
So,
Well, like you
I
said,
did the same thing with the black and blue jig. I did the same thing, clear water.
Yeah.
Black and blue.
Were you saying, Hayes? Sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, you're good. I was just gonna say around here, yeah, everybody's on for the past 3 years. It seems like everybody's been on the whopper plopper train, and these fish. I feel like for moving top water, I think they're starting to get slick to it a little bit. So around here, the past like year and a half, what I've been doing is taking the little like those tiny Strike King buzz baits, like the Pond Magic ones. The little like 1/4 ounce or whatever they are. They're about half the normal size. Rip the skirt off and throw like a 3 or a 4-inch Mr. Twister on the hook, and then it's literally just a little buzz grub is all it is. And around here, that just smacks them. You can go 3-to-1 with a person with a regular prop bait in that around here. Just again something a little different. It's got a little floating plastic to it too, so it keeps it up a little higher too than it would normally be on a buzz bait, so you can fish it a little slower. But yeah, it's been great.
Heck yeah,
I've been doing that with the brush hog. Take the skirt off and then put a brush hog on the buzz bait.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Does anyone throw a buzzbait with a skirt on it anymore? It doesn't seem like anyone does.
I do, but I throw the horny toad with the skirt over it. Just a
This
little
one's
more
got-
extra bulk.
This is gonna sound dumb too, but last year I started throwing my buzzbait on fluoro.
Any reason why?
I mean, the line is not what keeps it floating. So what is like it's you reeling it. The line floating or sinking has nothing to do with it. So
I throw mine on braid.
Yeah, I just throw mine on. I only have one rod that I actually keep braid on around here. It's my frog rod. So just to save space, I throw it on like my Texas rig or my jig rod. You got like
Actually,
18,
I think a lot of people
20
throw
pound
in like,
fluoro.
yeah, I think a lot of people actually throw it on fluoro.
Yeah, it's one of those things that sounds stupid when you tell somebody. You're like, why wouldn't you?
I've done
No one buys mono anymore. I mean,
right.
Mono floats, yes, great, awesome, but no one buys it anymore. So
I still use mono, to be honest with you.
I throw braid to fluoro leader actually on my top waters.
Braid to fluoro.
Yeah, like on the floating, like. So I guess this is even more juicy, and I don't really want to explain it, but I throw a like a 15-pound fluoro leader to a 30 or 40-pound braid, and for that floating minnow or like a prop bait, because it pulls the nose down versus straight, and you get a little bit more action out of it, and you could work your bait a little bit slower even with that fluoro rather than like straight braid. If you like pull it, you're pulling it a lot more versus the fluoro because it's like kind of like sinks down like this, you know. You're pulling it down, and your bait's gonna sink back or float back up. So you could leave it in the spot a lot longer. Flutter fish are stupid though, so they're like, I'm not gonna eat that thing if it's not gold or June bug. So
I do a lot of this year. I have so Reaction Innovations did a spicy beaver, and so I'll take the skirt off a buzzbait and just throw a spicy beaver on there, and those legs just go. I killed it this year on those.
Heck yeah, dude!
That's a really good swim jig trailer too.
Oh yeah, it's and it sold out real quick on Tackle Warehouse because it took
a lot of water.
Yeah, took me forever to get them back.
Yeah, you take a half-ounce jig with a spicy beaver and a half-ounce jig with a rage crawl. It's crazy how much slower that spicy beaver falls.
Yeah.
It's pretty nuts. And talk about the skirt, non-skirt. Something I like to throw a lot, I don't see a lot of people do at least, is throw in a naked chatterbait. Someone without a skirt on.
So
with
like
a swim bait on it?
Yeah, swim bait, or I'll play around with it, but like a big paddle tail is actually pretty sweet with it.
I used to do that actually with the Lake Fork Magic Swimmer on a plain chatterbait.
Yeah. What's
have
funny
any of
is
the northern guys used the smaller chatterbait heads they just came out with that don't have a skirt on them, like the
willow
blade. I picked some up. I'm gonna try them. But
I feel like it'd be great for smallmouth, but yeah, I haven't seen any around yet. I haven't picked any up.
Those stealth blades would probably be good with the swim bait on it too.
Yeah. If you didn't listen to the new Bass U with Terry Scroggins about the how to get your chatterbait weedless, I would recommend it. There was a lot of juice in that one. So, and I hate the word juice, but it was pretty awesome. Like he pretty much said, here's how to keep your chatterbait weedless.
That's pretty sweet.
They got that new weedless one too. I haven't tried it yet though.
He was using 220-pound ocean fishing line. That's how we kept it.
Oh, like a weed guard?
Yeah. So I didn't watch the video. I just only listened to it. So in regards, but it's supposed to be good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's what else? There's I put out a video on it actually a couple weeks ago, but Queen Tackle, one of our partners, kind of selfish plug, they make what's called a switchblade, so you can add a chatterbait blade to any vertical jig head. I like throwing that on underspins. That's a pretty sweet little rig. Throw that with like a G-Man razor blades or something like that. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty sweet action in there. Other than that, I don't really have anything juicy. No. Charles, what do you got down there? You've been quiet. You're probably hiding something from us.
I'm really hoping you forgot about me, honestly.
Let's hear it, dude.
If you take like a soft jerkbait with a paddle tail, like the Zoom Super Fluke, If you rig it weightless and upside down, it almost works like a little prop bait when you reel it across the top of the water.
Interesting.
And if you can add a rattle into the tail, or sometimes you're throwing a quarter, I don't know, 1/8 ounce weighted jig hook, keep it right at the water level, throws water a little bit better. But I mean, high pressure situations when I'm going down a bank, there's 3 boats in front of me and 4 boats behind me throwing a buzz bait or a whopper popper. I'll pick that up, and I've caught some really good fish on it, and I filled some limits out really fast on it. I mean, it's something nobody else does, and it's just a real finesse presentation to get bit. So
That's pretty cool, dude. Heck yeah. Andy, what about you, dude? You've been being pretty quiet.
I don't really do anything like out of the ordinary. I did recently come across some old juice I used to use, and I happened to stumble upon it in Bass Pro, so I bought it. But it's a certain scented gulp spray. You know, Berkeley Gulp. It has the package baits, but they actually have a spray you can spray on the bait. And there was one particular one, and I'm not going to say which one it is because you're probably not going to find it anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I used to get a lot of extra bites when I would drop shot crosstail shads with it, so I'm going to mess around with it again this year on a couple other baits and see if I can pick up a few extra bites, because everyone knows about flatworms and smallmouth. So I have a feeling that bite is going to go away here, so I got to experiment and find something else.
You guys think the flatworm has kind of like put an end to scent versus non-scent?
never thrown it.
Nope. You never throw max scent?
I got max scent pack of crawls that I fished for the first time Saturday, my first derb of the year.
Get this guy off here.
One fish compared to the rest of the plastic. I mean, they just wasn't comparing. They're just unscented.
What up, Drew?
What's up, guys? I just got off a podcast. Just got off a podcast with the Hobie Bass Open Series, previewing Lake Dardanelle, and I'm all messed up here with my mic. But anyway, it was a good time. So I figured I saw you guys on here. I knew you had the 200 going on, so I just had to text you real quick and say, hey, I'll pop in to say, congrats. You guys are killing it. And I got to go back and listen because I just heard you guys talking about juicy baits. So now I got to go back and actually listen to the podcast and pick up something from all you guys that
you don't listen
hammers.
to them anyways?
No, I do, but I just was on a podcast, dude. I was just doing a. Come on, Mr. Fool. I'm too easy to mess with, man.
Before you go back and listen, then Drew, it's your turn. You're on the show here. You gotta give us some juice.
So what was the exact question?
Just a piece of juice that you got. Some
all right.
Bait or whatever.
Yeah. Well, okay. So hopefully you guys have all listened to everyone listening and watching this right now. Saw the episode I was on with Andrew and Bailey. I fish kayak fishing and I fish rivers. So I'll give you some juice for rivers and kayaks, right? I'm going to tell you, like this past weekend, I ended up getting second and a fourth in the kayak bass fishing trail series events over on Pickwick. The water was up. It's high this time of the year. My secret is heavier baits than anyone realizes you need, heavier baits. So I'm using a 1 1/4 ounce jackhammer. I'm using I had as much as a 2 ounce spinnerbait on, fishing the same, river system that you saw Steve Kennedy, Brock Mosley, all those guys on the Elite Series that were there the week before fishing. So sometimes you need a lot heavier bait than you realize in the spring, flooded high water. That's sort of my secret. 1 1/4 ounce jackhammers with a 5-inch swim bait, like a diesel minnow or a Z-Man swimmers. So it was pretty cool. And I hammered some big smallmouth. A couple were pushing 6 pounds, and can't complain, man. Can't complain.
Nice.
I like
that's
that.
A big chatterbait.
Yeah, I throw an ounce jackhammer up here too in deep grass. That's another, I guess, a little piece of juice I'll throw out there.
The deepest grass I fish is 6 feet.
We don't have any grass, so I've never fished grass.
Yeah, I feel bad for anybody that lives in Ohio that wants to fish. And Drew, you're on Ohio too.
I am now.
Ohio?
I did. I'm from the Southeast originally, from Atlanta, and man, as he started above me, I'm gonna punch. So I live in my in-laws are up here. My wife's from here originally, Northeast Ohio. So I'm in the Kent area. And I grew up in the Southeast, so, you know, Georgia, and then lived in South Carolina for a few years and Charlotte for about 10, where I met my wife, and we had a little baby. And of course it's nice to have family close by. So it just makes my drives a little bit longer, but that's okay, because she's got the help with our boy. And hey, I'm close to Erie, 45 minutes away. So I got those big smallies there, and there's, you know, a lot of good folks here in Ohio. So it's not all bad. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Drew, I've
Just don't go
messaged
to
you
Southern
before. Is you can come to Kentucky anytime. You're more than welcome.
I will be there on the 23rd through the 25th-ish at a place called Canoe, Kentucky. It's a kayak dealer. I'm doing a demo there, a seminar there. So if anybody is around your area, go check out Canoe, Kentucky. It's around Frankfurt, I believe. You should stop by. Yeah. Come see
it's
me, man.
an hour away from me, so I may. And
All
I'll
right,
boo
no
you.
excuse. No excuse. Yeah, come.
John
boo me.
John will show up in a dress with pictures of Pangrak shirtless, handing them out like trading cards.
Actually, hit me up. I'm less than an hour away. I have friends there, and we'll do some fishing. So,
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. Hopefully we can make it happen.
yeah.
You'll never see Drew Gregory again after he fishes with John.
I don't know. That boat looks pretty sweet, dude. Your boat is pretty nice. I'm digging it, man.
Thanks. It's a good boat. I appreciate it. So I got all my shit from like, hey, you bought a new boat. Here's some hats. Here's some stickers. And we're like, can you give me like $40,000?
Yeah, give me a hand with that.
I get a discount.
It's a tough grind in the fishing world to do it for, you know what I mean, to get the financial part going, right? It's hard. And a lot of people don't know this. My master's degree is in sports management. And the first thing that they told me in my introduction to sport management class, this is at Georgia State in Atlanta, they said, now I'm going to date myself, which by the way, it is my birthday. So I don't, I could be dating myself anyway, because some people probably already have seen that today. But the first thing they told me in the class, I told all of us in the class, they said, you're going to come out here with a master's degree, and the Denver Broncos are going to offer you $30,000 to work full time, and someone's going to take it, because everyone wants to work in sports. It's fun. Fishing is a fun industry. When you have industries that are fun, that really don't feel like you're working for a living, people will do it for a lot less. So it's very hard to grind. I'll never forget Stetson Blaylock at ICAST when him and I were talking. We're at that time. He was with 13 Fishing. He's not anymore. I still am. And he hadn't won yet. You know, at Winona Bay, he didn't win, but he's always a top angler. And he was just telling me, he's like, Drew, because you just assume those guys have it good. They have it easy. No doubt they've got it easier than a lot of folks, right? But it was hard for him, such a grind. And in the kayak world, it's even tougher, but it's getting easier. We're growing the sport all together. And that's the thing. We got to keep pushing it all together forward, those non-endemics. And that's actually just got done writing an article for Bassmaster. I think it went live on the website yesterday. And it's about how bass boats and kayaks can grow the sport together and stay in each other's own lane without being, having animosity towards each other. It's a pretty good read. If you guys haven't checked it out, I think it's getting a lot of buzz out there, because it's something super important. It needs to be a discussion now, because I've seen bass boaters, annoyed that, those kayakers just like mosquitoes in my way all the time. And then, they kind of, it shouldn't be that. I think we need the rising tide raises all ships sort of thing. And I know that's so over said of analogy, but it's so true, because kayakers are using the same rods and reels and line and everything else. It's all contributing to the overall bass fishing industry and fishing industry, really. And we're all, for matter of fact, I got into listening to your podcast because, and other podcasts that are not just kayak podcasts, because I started getting into the kayak tournament scene. So we're contributing clicks, and the overall economic impact that kayak's having overall in even the bass boat world, it's a win for everybody. So we need to learn how to team up. And my article basically is saying we need to learn kayak fishing. We need to make sure we keep utilizing tournament venues and locations that the larger bass boat world can't, because of either the size, the venue, the what's the word I'm looking for? The accommodations, the facilities, what wouldn't dictate it. And then also the tours, how many tours and apartments out there with lakes that are 30,000 acres and greater have the money for it. So it's a pretty cool read, and how we could, stay in each other's own lane and get along great and keep driving this thing forward to new and better things. So anyway, I'll shut up now.
I think if Steve was out and he saw me on a kayak, I think Steve would run me over.
The contemplation.
Never.
No, it's a great point, Drew. I appreciate watching you go out and plug it, because if anyone's got a platform to talk about it in the kayak industry, it's yours, man. But yeah, I actually have. It's funny you say I have the article actually queued up here for when we get off, and I have to edit a little bit to actually read the thing. But looking forward to looking into that, dude. But the one thing, really fast, Drew, because we're actually going to wrap up the show here in a second. Something that was kind of a cool question that I would like to ask you, because I'm curious. John Welsh had asked us in this chat, who was your mentor and maybe someone you have mentored? And I know you have a decent amount of experience in the industry, so I'd be very curious to hear who is your mentor, and maybe mentoring or have mentored.
That's a good one. Honestly, there's a guy who he's got no one probably knows him. I mean, so I grew up fishing from, like a lot of people. My parents, grandparents all fished from. Originally they're from southeast Texas. So grandfather retired on Toledo Bend, and the other one was fishing the Sabine, a little bayou called Cow Bayou on the Sabine. So they got me into fishing, but they were never like everyone on this panel right now and people listening to this podcast. It's like a whole nother level. You know what I mean? They just like to fish. And so I ended up working at Bass Pro Shops in Atlanta, the very second one that opened. And there's a guy named Jason McCrae that was probably the most brilliant mind I've ever met about bass. And he took me to a whole nother level. And a lot of the guys there at that store kind of took me under their wing, honestly, at the reel counter. And you just learn stuff, right, working there. But Jason took me to a whole nother level. And I probably credit most of all that I know with the stuff that he sort of taught me about bass. And nobody really knows who he is much. He used to fish Red Man's. He's just a quiet guy, more of an introvert, but a real good dude, man, and taught me a lot about it and took me under his wing, and I appreciated that. And someone I'm mentoring now, I mean, oh man, there's definitely a lot of people that I kind of help out and whatnot, but I'm trying to think of one in particular that, man, not any one's coming to mind. I mean, a lot of people hit me up, and I don't know. I mean, a young guy, Travis Von Neumann, is a young river angler that'll talk with me every once in a while, and other friends that I wouldn't say I'm mentoring now, but in the day, like Lance Cooley's a great river angler, but I know he learned a lot from fishing with me, and then he took it his own, kind of like I did after Jason taught me a lot of stuff, took it further. He's just a great angler out there in Calera, Alabama. It's always been a good friend, and before he met me, he was fishing with a spinning rod. You know what I mean? I'm not taking credit for anything he's done, but it just goes to show, when you take that leap to a bait caster, and a lot of people don't understand what that can do to you. And when people, once they do, so he's a good dude, always been a good friend of mine. And not now, but back in the day for sure was somebody that probably comes to my mind as I fished a lot with, and he probably gleaned a lot off me. And now he's so good. I learned stuff from him too, whenever we talk. So
heck yeah. That's awesome, dude. It's always kind of cool having those relationships when they, kind of prospers, and then the teacher, student mentality, right? Where the student becomes a teacher, that sort of deal.
Yeah. And actually this is a quick plug. I will say I don't really do a lot of guided adventures, but when I do, they're basically to teach people. They're guided kayak fishing and fishing lessons, understanding bass. And a guy by the name of Nick Robinson, he's a doctor in like Winston-Salem. He hired me, and now he would be the one I would say that when I call on the phone when a tournament's over and I tell him, dude, I can't tell this stuff publicly, but this is how I did it. And it's like, he is so pumped up and he gets fired up and he's like, I can't believe that, dude, that was brilliant, or whatever he says. And he's another guy I would say is truly right now a mentor, because when he wants to retire early and get into tournaments, more when he's kind of early retired in kayak fishing. So he's one that really probably fits today a little bit better. So
heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. But boys, are there any other topics or anything you guys want to chit chat or discuss before we end up signing off here tonight?
I got one more juicy thing for people, just because I saw somebody mention it in the chat.
All right, hit us with it, Charles.
Mike B and YouTube Cause was talking about the Walmart $1 spinner baits.
Yeah.
And if you need something to try, and since they're so cheap, go to Walmart and get you like 10 of these for $12 after taxes. Throw them deep into brush and work them almost like a blade bait. And if you lose it, you lose it. It's $1. They'll catch multiple fish before they break, and no other fish has really seen that spinnerbait presented like that in deep brush.
Right.
So, little idea for people.
Yeah. Is there a weedless spinnerbait out there? Literally an EWG spinnerbait? I don't know if I've ever seen one.
Snagless Sally, dude. It's seriously Snagless Sally. It's like the only one, right? That's like a weedless spinnerbait.
I don't know if I've ever heard of that.
You never heard of the Snagless Sally?
I don't think I ever heard about that.
Look at all right. Who on here has heard of the Snagless Sally? All right.
The only one.
All right. So I guess it's, yeah.
John, you're just old, man.
No, that's like a weedless.
I'm old. That's impressive.
I just looked it up. It looks like a big rooster tail.
Yeah.
Oh, Hayes, you've heard of it? Or are you looking it up?
No,
right now?
I just looked it up. Yeah, it looks like a rooster tail with like a brush guard on it.
Did any of you
It's an inline. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an inline. Yeah.
I think I've seen that actually. Yeah.
That's cool.
I know I brought it up, but the old Buell spin was brought up on Bass University. If none of you ever saw last night's episode,
I didn't see it last night, no.
Oh, it was awesome! Like how they tricked out a beetle spin to a Senko.
What?
Yeah, check it out, man.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome what they did with it. So what Scroggins did with it. Yeah.
Sounds like there's a lot of juice in that episode because you brought it up a few times now.
Yeah, it was. Well, I missed the first part, but yeah, it's worth watching. So
Sweet. I'll have to go into it and watch it. Probably watch that tomorrow.
I need time to watch all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, what are you guys fishing, by the way? Who's fishing a tournament next? Where's the next derb for you guys?
I got the Northern Open on Douglas in a few weeks.
The Northern Open?
Or Southern Open. Sorry.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
On my calendar.
I fished there once and it was a Northern Open.
And throw everyone off. So.
What'd you say? Sorry. What?
Me?
Yeah. What about Douglas?
Well, I said sometimes the Northern Opens will fish Douglas and throw everyone off. It's like
that's true.
I fished Douglas as a Northern Open before. I think that's why I said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John, what about you? You fishing any derbs?
I got a tournament on Green River Lake on the 10th of April and the 21st, and then a couple in Cumberland. It's just everything's flooded here. We're just waiting for everything to be not flooded. So
Douglas should be flooded, don't you think?
Yeah, everything's flooded. It's shit right now. Everything's shit in the Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama area. So
it was flooded. It was pretty great this past weekend over there. 1.5 ounce jackhammer and a 1.5 ounce spinnerbait, and you can. They're feeding.
Yeah,
but it's harder. I know in a bass boat you got to watch out. You got too many logs and stuff. You know what I mean? Like just flying around, getting swept through all that. But it's amazing where some of these fish will pile up in that situation. Like it's wintertime. You know when you find them in the winter and they're just stacked. They move into certain areas when it's flooded too, and it's pretty amazing if you can find them.
Fish know how to eat.
Yeah.
No matter what.
It's true. It's true. Well, cool.
Charles, you got any derbs, bud?
I got my second jackpot of the year this Saturday. Took third last week, hoping to kind of carry that momentum and come for first. I was one fish off last week, so that's some
nice.
Hit.
Heck yeah, dude.
I caught 2 fish in my Tuesday nighter.
You what?
I said I caught 2 fish in my Tuesday nighter.
Two for Tuesday.
24 pounds one. Like, I'm gonna throw these back.
Our first one of the year got one with 8 pounds, and that was with a full limit. So I came in third with 6 pounds and 4 fish.
Good grief.
Gotta love those slot lakes.
Yeah. Hayes, I know you're not a huge derb guy, but you got anything in the works?
Oh yeah, you know the Deer Creek Tuesday Nighter League's about to start up, so it's getting pretty serious. So it's gonna be pretty crazy. You know that $20 a week I got to throw in. It's gonna be it's pretty high stakes. But yeah, we're getting ready to start. I mean, it like you said, it's a terrible lake. I mean, if you get 3 or 4 line burners, you're in the money easy. I mean, you get 15, 20 boats there, and if you can put together 2, 3, 4 keepers, you're walking out with money. So that's how bad it is. But it's also kind of fun too. Every single fish counts. You have a 13, 14-inch fish, and you get the net.
12-inch limit there then?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not any worse than Indiana. Gist Creek in Indiana is $30 to put your boat in every time.
Sheesh.
Ooh.
Man.
I wouldn't go.
Yeah,
I'm getting passed for $40 around here, so
yeah. Indiana has a different, like, that's why I don't fish in Indiana. It has a different boat pass, and then certain lakes. Again, granted, Gist is downtown Indianapolis, but it's $30 to put in.
Wow.
John, how far are you from South Bend?
Oh man, I've spent many a night at the backer and taken a few ladies home from the backer.
You're in the middle of a sausage fest right now, my friend. You are right in the middle.
I think
that's where it's at, man.
I would think South Bend is 4 hours. Solid 4 hours.
The only place I found that was fun to fish in Indiana was called Pleasant Lake, like 25 minutes south of South Bend. It looks like Florida when you show up there.
Nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, I know exactly where it is.
Yeah. That's cool that you know the backer. That's where I spent most of the weekends when I was at Notre Dame.
No, that's where I spent most of my money when I
on the ladies or the
No. My wife can hear this, so I rescind all comments.
It's the redacted version. Bailey, you got to go edit this thing now, man.
Sorry, bud, it's live.
That's true. What about you, Bailey? Andrew, you guys fishing anything? You got some clients?
Yeah, our first tournament is my first tournament really is until the 3rd Saturday of June. Unless I want to hop in like a 2-fish trophy derby on Erie in May. But I don't really like to do those too much because of fish and deep water stuff, and it's just not really good for them with all the eggs and stuff. But I mean, trips wise, I'm pretty booked up through April and May, so it's a pretty good start. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
Andy will be practicing for his guide trip. He's starting his guide trips this year. But for me, at least on the kayak side, I got my first one in 3 weeks because New York, you're allowed to fish for bass in almost every county besides a couple by the St. Lawrence all year long. So, boats can't start until June-ish because of the whole live well deal.
Right.
And obviously, you can't put them in live well because it's keeping them and all that jazz. But the nice thing with the kayaks is obviously you can't put them in a live well, so you can compete whenever the heck you want as long as it's open water. So got the first one in 3 weeks, a little charity tournament, but it's guaranteed $1,000 for first or a small little local club. So should be fun.
Nice, man. Nice. And then I'll be seeing you out in Texas, right? For the
June. Texas in June.
The kayak classic, as we're calling it. I know they call it the Kayak Series Championship, or the Bass Nation Kayak Series Championship. But before then, I'll be on Dardanelle on the Hobie Bass Open Series. That's my next one. So looking forward to that. I won that event last year, so I'm looking forward to trying to defend and do it again, but it's a different time of year. So Lake's definitely going to change, and we'll see what happens on Dardanelle. Should be good though.
Heck yeah, dude. Well, you boys got anything else you guys want to talk about on the show tonight before we sign off here?
Yeah, man, I'm good. Thanks everyone for joining on our 200th episode and listening and tagging along.
Yeah.
When do I get my check from being on?
What was that, John?
When do I get a check for being on here? I thought we were getting paid.
That's not as charity.
Oh shit.
Well, yeah, boys, we appreciate you guys coming on. Andy and I are going to sign off here, but we appreciate you guys joining in with us tonight. It's always a pleasure.
One last question.
What?
Andrew, does your wife make you wear the captain hat when it's that time of the night?
No.
Does she say, put on the hat? Because
And
She does.
very similar to the project.
and that's a wrap.
Next show. I got a solution for it. Don't worry.
Oh, there he is. Now he's at the bottom. I moved up a level. That's right. Sweet. All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
Man.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, guys.
See you guys. Talk to you guys all
Yep.
soon.
I got one more thing for Chris Birch down here.
Okay. What's up?
And it works. We've done it in tournaments, but it's really just more of a funny thing. He said, how about 30 to 38 foot crankbaits? Carolina rig a baby 1-. These little 1 foot diving crank square bills. Carolina rig one.
Huh.
Peg your weight at your swivel. Carolina rig one.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
They don't see it. It's a small presentation.
Some
It
more
worked.
news. Awesome. Well, appreciate it, boys. We'll talk to you guys all soon. Heck yeah, man. Well, folks, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we appreciate everybody that's joined us. Obviously, guest-wise here tonight, joining Andy and I, and we appreciate all of you folks that have tuned in. If you guys are watching this on MP3, yeah, obviously we appreciate you guys. Obviously tuning in. The numbers for us have been growing like crazy, and it's really cool to see. Obviously, the fan base grow. So we really want to say a huge shout out to you guys, and also a huge shout out to all of these brands up here on top that have been supporting us, and it means the world. Hopefully, we can keep bringing you guys some high quality content, some awesome guests here soon. And we have one new sponsor announcement that we have coming up here soon that we can't tell you just yet, but it's going to be pretty cool, and hopefully it's something that we can actually help give back to you guys to get you some chance at some free and discounted pretty sweet stuff. So as always, guys, we appreciate you. And Andy, you got anything left for the folks before we sign off?
Tag us if you want to have mentioned so we can help spread the wealth, especially if you're catching some big ones. We'll gladly help spread the wealth. So
heck yeah. As always, guys, reach out to us on social media if you ever want certain topics discussed or if you want to just say hello. But as always, we appreciate you, and we'll see you guys on Friday.